Hi, I'm Loria Hudson with Let's Talk About It. In Pastor Carolyn Hunt's absence, I will be your host on today, and let's talk about it. Today, I would like to invite you to Walk in the Word Kingdom Church, located at 1201 Stubbs Avenue in Monroe, Louisiana. If you're listening on today, please come and join us every Sunday at 10 a.m. So today, we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about the different things that can come into your home and destroy your marriage. But first, we would like to invite you out on Saturday, November the 9th, 2019, at Walk in the Word from 12 p.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. to be a part of our Covenant Marriage Ministry. Again, that's November the 9th from 12 to 2 at Walk in the Word Church to visit our Covenant Marriage Ministry. We have an event that's going to take place. So if you're married or you're engaged and you would like to get more acquainted with your spouse, get some more information on how to have a healthy marriage and just get enriched in your household, you want to come out and join us. So we look forward to you. Again, that's on November the 9th, Saturday from 12 to 2 p.m. at Walk in the Word Church. Well, today I would just like to just share some information with you, ways that we can destroy our relationships. You know, we always talk about how the family home is and how the community is. We have a lot of things that go on in our home that shouldn't be. So we're going to talk about the 10 biggest, okay? I know there are so many things out there that can destroy a marriage, but we're only going to talk about 10 on today. And the scripture that I want to use is, of course, it comes from Ecclesiastics, where we talk about although one may be powered, two can defend themselves, a cord of a third string. We always talk about, it's between the husband and the wife, but we need that third cord string to help in our relationships. We understand that so many times, you get frustrated, and this happens in every relationship. You get frustrated, undisciplined, you get angry, and you wonder, how can I or what can I do so that my marriage can really matter to me? So the first topic, we want to find out what not to do in a healthy marriage. One of the biggies is have an affair. We always talk about, so many people have affairs in their relationships, but some of the things that we can do, we've all read different self-help books and we've talked to different people, but when we have an affair, this will, of course, cause a distant death in any trusted between you and your spouse. It will probably mean an immediate end of your marriage. So when you get married, you promise to be faithful to keep that promise. And as you listen to that, these are just the first thing that can destroy a marriage. So what do? We can seek help in different areas. You can go and speak to your pastoral pastor at your church, or you can get professional help from different counselors if you want to save your marriage. Because remember, marriage matters, because this is something sacred unto God. He talks in the word in Genesis how we should have godly relationships, how we should have a marriage that represents Christ. So that's our thing about having God in our relationship. Remember that marriage does matter, and it's something that we can do about it. What makes ordinary moments ordinary? Every marriage. When something happened in your relationship and it caused this one thing, such as we say an affair, what do? It's up to you to say that you married. No divorce should take place in your home. So you've decided to get help. Seek out that help. Seek out that godly help, because without God, nothing can take place in the relationship. And the second biggest thing that we talk about, having a non-sexual affair. So I guess you said, well, Loria, what does having a non-sexual affair have to do with this? Well, many people wouldn't call this an affair, okay? But it's almost as hurtful to a marriage as a physical adultery. So when we talk about a non-sexual affair, if you're spending too much time with someone, let's say of the opposite sex, and you feel more comfortable where you can have a conversation with them, and you're saying, well, I can't really talk to my spouse about this, but, we on jobs, and, you spend anywhere from 8 to 16 hours on your job. So you're saying, well, this is my work spouse, this is my work husband, this is my work wife, and then you start talking to them about personal things that's going on in your marriage. So that's why I call it a non-sexual affair. So if you see where you're spending a lot of time with this person of the opposite sex, and that person is giving you all the communication that you wish you could get from your spouse, and then possibly the affection and the attention, then you should be getting from your spouse, then you are in a dangerous ground. So if you're listening on today and you see yourself in that position, you might want to step back some and listen to yourself, to the Holy Spirit, and find out, is that going on in my marriage? Am I really speaking to that coworker or that best friend or someone of the opposite sex more than I'm really speaking to my spouse? A lot of times we don't think about it, and we definitely wouldn't call it an affair. And we think that, communication is okay, but understanding that communication is one of the number one problems that comes between a husband and a wife, because we feel like we can't talk to them because whether, I tell myself all the time, be true to thyself. So be true to yourself and tell your spouse, hey, pick that perfect time and the right time to have that conversation with them, or whatever the thing is in that relationship that you think that you're pulling away from your spouse, basically. And then you turn to someone else, giving them the information. You don't want to have an outside affair, because it's not just about sex, but it's about giving that time to someone else that's not your spouse, because that's how things start leading into the wrong direction. So you might be saying, yeah, because, I have friends of the opposite sex and nothing like that has happened. Also, the Word of God said, don't give no place to the devil. So we also have to keep that in mind. We don't want the devil to come into our marriages and tear them up, because remember, marriages do matter to God as they do to our spouse. We marry for life until death do us part. I know someone, my aunt was married for 50 years, and I said, 50 years is a long time to be married. She said, well, but we kept that communication open so we can talk. No, every day wasn't a good day. Some days there was anger, some days that was frustration going on, and we didn't agree, but we stayed together. And if needed be, to bring someone else, a mediator, or someone else, the pastor, to talk to them, because of the different things that happen in the relationship. So that's why it's so important that we bring information to you about relationships, because at Walk in the Word Church here in Monroe, that the pastors, they love each other, and they want to see this community here full of healthy families. Not only your healthy marriage, because if you have a healthy marriage, you can have a healthy family, you can have a healthy community where a man and a woman come together with that third chord string. Remember the scripture that I brought to you when we first started. You want to have that in your marriage. And you look around and you say, well, I know people, that's in church and their marriage is having problems. But the thing about it is, if you think or you see that you're having one of these issues that we discussed in your relationship, then you have to be the one to say that I need help. It's ironic that we'll go get help if we're having to take a major test or something. We'll go and get tutors and everyone to help us on our jobs. We get help. They bring in specials, to do different kind of workshops and stuff. So the same thing is with our relationships and our marriages. We need help. So we go out and we seek that help to make sure that they can help us identify, the different areas, the different problems that take place in our marriage. So that's what we're doing. We're enriching, we're enhancing relationships. So if you're married or engaged and you need that information, you want to become a part of the Walk in the Word Covenant Marriage Ministry in Monroe. Now the third one, it says, have a secret addiction. You might think, gambling and alcohol, you know what it is, and a lot lately we've been having pornography, the social media. Spouses argue the fact that, my spouse have a secret, Facebook page or a secret Twitter page or a secret Instagram page, and I know nothing about, and they find out, that's a secret. And then we're talking about an addiction. Every time you have an addiction, you only know about what's going on, but when your spouse finds out about it, and then you want to kind of get out of it. So if you find out, if you see that you're having that kind of problem with some kind of sexual addiction, then you want to get help. That is not pleasing unto God. You know, the secret will eventually come out, and it will be a relationship killer. So you're saying it's not about you. I still love my spouse, but it is about your spouse, because it said you two, you come together. When we're two together, we can put a lot of things, we can kill a lot of things together. So yeah, you want to invite your spouse in that. If you see or feel like you are in a sexual addiction, then seek the necessary help. So that way you can keep your spouse together. You and your spouse can stay together. You don't want a divorce, or you don't want to be separated. And a lot of times I always say, when you get in trouble in your marriage, and especially if there's children involved, you know, we think about, you know, it's not about the children, but it is about the children. The children are in the home. And so if you and your spouse is affected with a separation or a divorce, then the children are also have a problem with that too. So whenever we talk about, you know, ways to destroy marriages, think about it like this. We're also destroying families. Now I understand you saying, you know, sometimes things happen. When things happen, this is when we should reach out for that extra help that we need. This is when we want to learn how not to tear up the home, and we want to stay together. So if you find yourself, or if you know someone that's having a secret addiction, then you want to help them. You know, you've been in different marriages, and you see them in there, and you say, I'm your best man, you know, I'm the bridesmaids, and I'm the maid of honor, I'm the matron of honor. Then you reach out to that help, and then seek the help that you need to keep that marriage together. And now on the fourth one, have a baby in order to fix a marriage. I know you're probably laughing right about now, but so many times, you know, adding a child into a relationship when you already having negative issues in your relationship is not the best time to bring a child into the marriage. You might say something like, well, maybe if we have a baby, maybe it'll be better. But no, we need to find out what the problem is in the relationship that's in the marriage before you bring an innocent child into the chaos that's going on in the home already. A baby is a human being, not a marriage patch kit. So having that baby is not going to patch up if we don't look at the issues that's going on in the marriage before we bring the baby in. Yeah, I know once you have the child and months and years can go by, problems can come up. But I'm saying here, having a baby is not going to bring that marriage closer just because you have the baby. If the underlying issues, that foundation, if it's already shaking, bringing that baby in it could make it even worse. See, I love kids. You know, I have two myself. And so to bring that child into that home, into that marriage, when it's already have problems in it, could cause a separation. It cause a divorce. It could cause more trauma for the woman or the man. So just think about it. What is the purpose? Our marriages have purpose to it. Not to just, you know, passion comes and it goes. But what is your purpose? Ask yourself. Ask your spouse. You know, they might not be with you now, but when they come around, ask them, what is the purpose of our marriage? This relationship that we have together, what is the purpose of it? And then ask them, does our marriage matter? And have conversation. You know, pick that right time to have that conversation, you know, especially, you know, in the years that you've been married. We have to examine our relationships just like we examine anything else in our lives. If your marriage is already in trouble, having a baby could possibly hurt that relationship, not help it. So keep that in mind when you think about it, okay? Because remember, a baby is not a patch kit. They can't patch up what is going on in the relationship in the beginning. So, ordinary moments, they happen over and over and over again. As always, things happen in our relationship. So if you're married and you're looking back over the years and you say, well, when I first got married, it wasn't like this. So things change over the years. And as they change over the years, we change over the years. And so therefore, we have to do things different than what we used to do. And so those are the 4 biggies, I say, in a relationship, in your marriage, that could bring it to a destruction. And the fifth one is keeping financial secrets. Oh, yeah, I know. You have this account, this person had that account. I'm not saying how you should have your finances. What I'm saying is keeping secrets about it. I have heard so many examples of marriage where one spouse was seriously in debt and the other spouse had no idea until complete and utter financial devastation took place. So you want to at least let them know what's going on, because finance is another thing besides the communication, financial stress. You know, the man is trying to provide for the wife trying to provide for the man, you providing for your family, for your home, however you are handling your finances. But if one don't have enough of money to pay the house note, and then you hiding money for whatever reason, and then you end up losing your home, utilities get cut off. It's so many different things can happen in a home when you're hiding finances. So that's something that if you have not talked about, and then if you're engaged and you're listening, remember you want to discuss your financial issues. You know, people get upset even when they look at your credit report and say, well, I didn't realize that you had bad credit before we got married. These are things that you should talk about before you're married if you're engaged. And if you're already married, and if you have not discussed your financial situations, or if you find yourself hiding finances and you know that at this moment we need more finances to take care of things, sit down and talk about it. Because if we don't talk about the situation just continues to grow, 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 and grow. And then, as you notice, it could lead into some of the other things. Because when a person gets stressed, that stress causes them to get angry, they get frustration, and then they really are not paying attention to how they're handling the situation. So if you're so stressed over finances and you just want to throw yourself into other things, you end up, going back to the pornography, or saying I'm going to drink a little bit, or I'm going to use some drugs just to calm myself down. See, it starts trickling right on back up. When you don't discuss a thing, it causes other problems to happen. Then you want to start talking to your work spouse about what's going on, because my spouse will want to talk to me about the financial issues, and then all the way up to having affairs. These things are real. They happen every day in relationships. So you might be saying, not in my relationship, but really, they happen. That is the reason why we talk about it. We want to talk about the real life issues that happen in marriages. If our goal, and we say that we want to enhance and enrich marriages in the community to bring on healthy families, we want to make sure that we don't keep these kind of things. It happens all the time, but we're going to talk about it. So the more time, as much as we talk about it, and then hopefully you'll hear the show and you'll say, we need to evaluate our relationship. We need to see the biggies that's going on in our family. It might not be, that secret addiction. It might not be that affair. But, I have been handling these finances in a bad way. I have been, talking to my spouse in a bad way. And I realized that, hey, I could talk to my coworker a whole lot easier than I can my spouse. So you want to ask yourself a question. Why? How can I talk to someone that I work with, or these are strangers not in my home? How can I deal with them on a personal level than I can my own spouse, the one that you say that God put you together, the one that you say till death do us part? Ask yourself, how can I do that? So if you find yourself in these situations, seek that help so that you can have a healthy marriage and bring on healthy children for your community. And then the sixth one, and you've been talking about it all through the show, don't communicate. A marriage cannot survive with merely superficial conversations. You walk in the house, hi, how you doing? All right, you going about your business, hi, bye, what's for dinner, what you gonna cook, just casual conversation. No laughter, no real conversation, not even knowing each other. That's when you end up going right on back to sexual addictions, sexual affairs, the different things that you put into place because you can't have that real, true, deep conversation with your spouse. It is easy to get too busy. Then you find your only conversation is about the kids. What are the kids are doing? Got to take the kids here, take the kids there. What about the house? This needs to be repaired. I need to do this day. And then we talk about just the day-to-day business of running our lives. But if you're not communicating on a deeper level of feelings, really telling your spouse, how I really feel, if you had a bad day at work, then you really want to talk about that, or just your hopes and your dreams. I see in myself where I am today. Babe, let's talk about this here. Where's our plan at? We are looking at a 30-day plan, a 12-month plan, or whatever plan. You put plans in place. If you want to purchase big objects, big things, you put things in place, even on your job. You have your plan out. So what about our plan for our marriage? When the last time we really looked at it and saw, okay, we need to have a conversation about this. And not always talking about just superficial things that's going on, that you're not truly communicating. And that way you'll find out, okay, when you start communicating, I hear a couple say, well, no, that was the plan 2 years ago. The plan has changed. And the other spouse might say, well, I didn't know the plan has changed, because that goes back to not having that communication that we so desperately need with one another. So we don't want to lose our spouse into, other things that's unhealthy for our relationship. We want to make sure that we keep the communication gap open. We should be able to talk to our spouse about any and everything. So if you see where you're having a problem to communicating with your spouse, or you feel like they're going to say the wrong things, then you need to make sure that you have that in place. If it means, seeking, other professional help. And then, number 7, you just quit dating. Say I do. I don't mean that you should stop dating your spouse. You still need time together, time away from home, time away from the kids and the home responsibilities. I often say, okay, I don't have enough money to do this. I just told someone last week, just go to Sonic and sit there and, get your ice cream cone or whatever you like. Don't make it seem like it's this big, broad thing where we have to have a date and have to have money, because you'll say, well, they always say, go out on a date, and it's going to take a lot of money. No, it doesn't. It's not always about money. You can even take a walk or stroll down the street, but it's that time together. You're not in front of the television. The kids are not coming in and out of the room talking with you. You're not talking about, oh God, the house bills. You're not talking about work or anything, but spending that intimate time with each other. Talking, having those conversations that you should have been talking about, or just enjoying one another. Noticing things that have changed about one another. And just in that quiet time, and you see nothing else but your spouse. See, it doesn't cost anything to do that. We want to be practical in certain situations. And then some can possibly, take trips. And it's not about how long you go away and spend that time, but just taking the time. And you ask yourself, when the last time you spent with your spouse and just really just enjoyed them without the talking about the bills, or without talking about the kids, or talking about work, or even talking about other friends or in-laws. Think about that. That is so important if you want to have a healthy relationship. A lot of times people say, it's been a long time, or I haven't seen a healthy marriage. I'm talking about truly a healthy marriage. I haven't been around that. So a person can't be and see if they haven't seen it. So you want to say, you be that example for someone, that you have a healthy relationship, because you've learned how to talk with your spouse, okay? You learn how to be open with your spouse. You learn on that date that you're on. You learn how to actually date one another, okay? And then number 8, pour all your energy into your kids. That's not a good thing. You'll forget all about your spouse. Kids, undoubtedly, they need our time and they need attention, especially if they're little ones. But both parents often focus all of their energy on their kids, and then they start ignoring each other. You know, you tired day in and day out because you spend all that time with them. You know, and that's all the conversation you know is children talk. You don't know anything else. You don't forget all about your spouse. You don't forget all about their needs and their desires because right now you're trying to grow them up. You know, I think that's where the word balance comes in at, knowing how to balance things in our lives. So everything has a place. So when it comes to our kids and our marriage, they have a place in our life too. So we have to understand that. And I think as mothers, you know, we're the one that nurture them, and we want to make sure that we're there and making sure that they do all they need to do. But keep in mind that your spouse is there. And then it could be vice versa. The spouse is the one running them everywhere they need to go, and they're more engaged with them, and the mom is not because she's trying to build a business, and you know, and then you forget about the spouse. So that's really a big one. You pouring all your energy into your kids, and then you get separated, and not then what happens? It's all over. Okay? And number 9, being a workaholic. Hey, you have a career and you love it, you know, but you don't have that career that you love more than your spouse. Because so many times we get tied up into, especially if the money, you know, is short and you're trying to build that business to a certain place and then you're gone. You spending, you know, 16, 18 hours a day. And then by the time you get home, maybe 1 or 2 hours goes right on back to the kids, no time with them. And then you're too tired, you know, you just kiss your spouse and then you shower, go to bed. What kind of relationship is that? And again, it goes back to when I said earlier about planning, you know, organizing. And we have that time that we do that. But then to work all the time, every day, every month, then it started turning to years, and then you start losing interest. Those kind of things are real. They happen. You know, we talk about it, and then as we talk about it, you start thinking about it, and you say, you know what, really? If you see where you and your spouse have become distant with one another, why don't you do a survey and you look back at that, and you'll see actually when did we start separating. When did we start missing your desires being, you know, my desires, and I care about your desires and your feelings? So when did that happen? Take a survey and you think about that because time do go by. So remember, those are some of the biggies that can happen. And remember to join us at Walk in the Word Church at 1201 Stubb Street in Monroe, Louisiana. I'm Loria Hudson with Let's Talk About It.